Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and test audio. John, can you hear me okay?
Sure can, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen, and then we can go ahead and get started.
Hello, my name is John Cunningham, and I'm the president of Beacon Aviation Insurance Services. As this is a live webinar, I would like to personally thank all our partner agents who have volunteered to participate on this call. We would ask you to hold all questions till the Q&A at the end of our presentation, as well as to mute your phones. Joining me today are several of our senior underwriters, Bennett Goldblum, Aaron McManus, Michelle Haddad, Chelsea Jackson, and Joe Suarez. Also with us today is Vanessa Camara, Director of Customer Development for Appulate. The purpose of today's webinar is to let you know about our partnership with Appulate, introduce the details of the program, and review a live demo to show you exactly how it works and how it will allow you to easily and efficiently begin quoting and binding accounts immediately with Beacon Aviation. Our presenters today, again, are myself, John, and we'll hear from Vanessa a little bit later. Beacon specializes in workers' compensation exclusively for the general aviation industry. We work nationally with agents and brokers to offer coverage in all non-monopolistic states. As the program manager, Beacon holds the pen for best A-rated AmTrust Financial Insurance Company. From pilots to ground operation, Beacon covers most of the segments of the aviation industry, which includes fixed base operations, maintenance, repair, and overhaul, airline service companies, which could include inside, outside cleaning, painting, etc., airport operators and authorities, charter operations, flight schools, aviation manufacturers and suppliers, and corporate businesses that operate aircraft. We usually operate with a minimum of $5,000, but this can vary depending on the risk. A few excluded operations include aerial firefighting, agricultural applicators, helicopter operations, search and rescue, skydiving, and stunt flying. Beacon Aviation has partnered with Appulate to ease the submission process for our agents. The process will provide an accessible, streamlined option for your aviation workers' compensation needs. Aviation workers' compensation risks are frequently undervalued by agents. With Appulate, we are able to provide an avenue for agents to reach Beacon Aviation underwriters directly. This creates fast turnaround, risk confidence, and stronger relationships with our clients. And to add, Beacon also provides workers' compensation 101 class for folks new to the industry who have multiple account opportunities. Call your underwriter to discuss this matter.
Wonderful.
That is where agents, MGAs, and carriers do business digitally. We can help you expand your markets, automate your workflow, save time and money. Now we'll move the presentation over to Vanessa.
Thank you, John, and thank you everyone so much for joining us today. For those of you that aren't too familiar with Appulate, I'd like to take just a moment to fill you in here. Appulate is a technology company with a growing network of over 30,000 agencies nationwide and hundreds of markets, making Appulate the place where agents, MGAs, and carriers do business digitally. By using Appulate, your agents can save, or your agency can save time and money. Based on a survey that we conducted on retail agents, we found that agents are averaging about 40 submissions per month, and agents reported an average savings of about 37 minutes per submission using Appulate. Now, this translates to an average of close to 1,500 minutes, or over 24 hours saved per month with Appulate. And of course, if we can save time, we can save dollars. So with those numbers, the average savings per agent is around $593 per agent per month, or over $7,000 per year by using Appulate. So with that said, let's go ahead and get right into our live demonstration. I'm going to show you exactly today how you can use Appulate to submit to Beacon. So I'm going to do this by pulling open an Accord form that I have saved and ready to go. You may have this in an Accord PDF as I have it on my screen, or you may have your Accord form filled out and ready to go in your agency management system. Wherever you have an Accord form filled out, that's where you want to start, because through Appulate's uplink tool, there's no need for you to rekey information. It's simply going to grab this information from the Accord form and plug it right into the Beacon Aviation portal so that you don't have to rekey any of this during your submission. Appulate uplink works with any agency management system. If you don't have an Accord form, no problem. I'll show you a little bit later on in the demonstration how you can get started right from within Appulate. So for now, we're going to Appulate this. In other words, we're going to print the Accord form to the Appulate uplink printer option. Now this installs on your desktop in less than a minute, and I'll show you at the end how you can go ahead and download this. So we'll go ahead and print here and confirm our Appulate credentials. Once we do so, it may ask us to confirm the line of business. This, of course, is for workers' compensation. We'll click Continue. Then it's going to take us here into Appulate, where it's created the insured, American Aviation, and it created the line of business, and it bridged over the effective date from the Accord form. If this is now outdated, you can simply click on the date, and you can update this right from within Appulate. All of the information that was on the Accord form or forms that you bridged over has been carried over into what we call our SMART questionnaire. So as I scroll through this, you can see all of the information bridged over. You do not need to rekey any of this. So once you're on here, your very first step needs to be to add a market. So at this point, you have not chosen yet Beacon Aviation as your market. You'll need to do that first. So the markets that are appearing here are the markets that you've chosen to work with in Appulate. Beacon Aviation should show up as one. At the end of my demonstration, I'm going to go over setup, so we'll ensure that everybody can see this in their list. So we've chosen Beacon Aviation, and to the right-hand side, we now have a letter indication that will give us additional information on this, including all of the questions that are missing and required. We'll need to answer those down below in the SMART questionnaire before we click on this submit button. So currently, the submit button is in orange. We can't click on it yet. So again, we'll have to go through the SMART questionnaire and look for these, let's see, 19 questions that are missing, 18 questions that are missing, and then we can go ahead and click on that submit button. So there's a couple of ways to do this. We can just go through this section by section, looking for the questions that have a red asterisk next to them and answering them, or we can use the live links in this letter indication. So it says, please provide the following insured's information. Does the insured lease employees to or from other employers? And we can click on this, and it will take us directly to where we need to answer that question here in the SMART questionnaire. Now, I want to point out that on the right-hand side, we have a helpful Mark All No button here. So of course, for the section that we have opened up, if it's a heavy yes, no section, as this one is here, you can click on the Mark All as No button so that you don't have to click on this for each one. Of course, review this and make sure that you're answering the information accurately. If you need to change any one of these to yes, you certainly can. Now, this is what we call a SMART questionnaire because it's dynamic. Based on how you answer certain questions, more questions may appear or questions may be eliminated based on your responses. Okay, so we try to make this as efficient as possible for you so you're not having to see a bunch of questions that don't pertain to this. Use that Mark All as No button again, and that completes the missing and required questions. We now have a green U for refer to underwriting. We have a green submit button. So everything will be referred to underwriting. Beacon will need to review before they get you a quote back. And you will get a quote back within 1 to 2 business days. So the goal is to get to a green submit button. Once you have a green submit button, it means you're ready to go. You're ready to submit this to Beacon Aviation. Before you do so, I want to point out that there's 3 tabs on the left-hand side that you'll want to review. So the first is loss runs. In the loss runs tab, there's, once you input the insurance history information, or if it was on the Accord form, it would have bridged it over. Once you do that, then you get these icons here on the right-hand side that say upload file. Click on it and you can browse your computer to upload the loss runs. Of course, the more information that you give Beacon, the faster they can turn around this quote. So if you have it, go ahead and attach it. In the docs section, you can drag and drop or click on select to browse your computer to upload anything outside of loss runs that you would like to include as a part of your submission. So if you have loss runs, attach them in the loss runs tab. If you have anything else to attach, go ahead and attach it in the docs tab. Finally, there's a note section. If you type in any notes here under shared and click add, then the Beacon team will be able to review these notes along with your submission. If you plug in any notes under private, the Beacon team will not have access to those notes. So these are just notes for your own reference. Under shared are the notes for Beacon. All right, so once you have fulfilled the requirements and attached any documents, plugged in any notes, then you can go ahead and click on the submit button whenever you're ready. And the status will change to say submitted. So this will trigger a notification to the Beacon team. They'll log into Appulate. They'll see all of this information that was sent over to them. They'll work on getting you a quote, which will happen fairly quickly. Once they return a quote to you within 1 to 2 business days, you will receive email notification. You do not need to come back into the system to consistently see if your quote has been uploaded. You will receive email notification, and that email notification will contain a link that will navigate you back into the insured record. All right, so for the sake of moving forward, the Beacon team has gone ahead and uploaded a quote for us to review. Chelsea, is that ready?
Yes, it's ready.
Okay, wonderful. So what we'll do is we'll just refresh our screen here. Did you release that, Chelsea?
Yes, it's been released.
Okay, so let's log back in here, give it a moment to refresh. All right, still not seeing anything. Chelsea, did you want to try that again?
Okay.
So again, the turnaround time is about 1 to 2 business days. We're trying to just do this quickly for you behind the scenes so that we can keep moving on with the rest of the quoting process. As Chelsea's working on that, I do also want to point out that you do not need to be appointed to submit and get a quote back from Beacon. The appointment process is built into the Appulate system. I'll show you that in just a bit. Of course, you can get appointed with them at any time, so if you prefer to knock that out first before doing anything with them, you're welcome to do so, but just note that you can go through the submission process, get a quote back, and at the time of bind, it's all built into the system, so you can take care of that then. Chelsea, how are we doing?
It says released on our end.
All right, there we go. All right, so once the quote has been released, you will receive email notification. Again, you'll log back into Appulate and you'll see that the quote has been released here, and it will show up in a PDF that you can simply click on to open up and review. Now, one of the perks here is that to the right-hand side, you have these 3 little dots. If you click on that, there's an option to send by email. So you can send it over to your insured right from within Appulate to okay, so then what we'll have to do here is answer any additional missing questions to proceed with the request to bind. So once we go ahead and answer these questions, then it will show up in green and we can proceed. So it's almost like the submit, where first you want to get the green request to bind, or for the submission, you wanted to get the green submit button. And now for the request to bind, you want to get the green request to bind button. So we'll go through this and answer the missing and required questions that have a red asterisk. In the interest of time, I'm just going to do this as quickly as possible here so you're not spending too much time watching me type on my screen. Now, all of the information that you plug into Appulate is stored for easy renewals next year. So that's one of the perks here. Not only is it saving you time by making this an efficient process for you from within Appulate, but also next year, once it comes time for renewals, all this information is saved. It's all ready to go. All you have to do is make some updates and then submit. Okay, so now we have a green U button, which means that we've fulfilled the requirements. However, we still don't have a green request to bind button. Okay, so that means that there's an additional step that is needed outside of answering the questions to move forward with the request to bind. So we'll click on it, and it says, oh, at this time, you're not yet appointed with Beacon. If you would like to become appointed, you can click on this button here to proceed. So we'll do that. Just as I mentioned earlier, you can get appointed with Beacon at any time. However, if you would like to first start with a submission, get a quote, and then decide, it's all built into the Appulate system. All right, so it says not appointed yet, and it lists the steps that you need to do to become appointed with Beacon. First off, you'll sign the appointment agreement electronically by using this icon here. Again, in the interest of time, I went ahead and took care of that ahead of the demonstration for us. Everyone's pretty familiar with electronic signature. There's some help functionality in there as well that you might find useful. It also wants you to attach certain documents. So you'll do that by dragging and dropping files or clicking on select to browse your computer. Once you click on select, an important thing to note is that once you choose something, let's say it wanted a voided check. Let's say you choose voided check or whatever the case may be. In this case, they don't require a voided check, but let's say it was insurance agency license. Make sure you choose it from the type. Don't leave it marked as other. If you choose the proper type, then it will go ahead and knock it off as a requirement that has been completed so that you can move forward with the request appointment. So we're all set. I signed the appointment agreement. I attached all the documents. We'll go ahead and click on the request appointment button. And it says appointment has been sent. We now have a pending request. So this triggers a notification to the Beacon team. The Beacon team will review, make sure that they can appoint you. They will countersign the appointment agreement. And once you become appointed with Beacon, you will receive email notification. Now, Chelsea's taking care of this for us in the background as well so that we can keep moving forward with the demo. Chelsea, let us know when that's ready.
You're ready.
Wonderful. All right, so I'll go ahead and refresh the page here, and you can see that the status changes to say appointed. Now, again, you don't have to keep logging in here to check on the status. It will send you an email notification. And at that time, remember, we still have not requested to bind. We tried to, but it said that we needed to become appointed first. If you're appointed, it skips this step and just takes you to the request to bind. But again, we weren't appointed, but now we are. So now we need to navigate back into the insured file. So you can do that by typing in part of the insured's name or FEIN. You can do it by sorting through the list of insureds, number of different ways, but you want to get back into the insured file. In this case, it was American Aviation. I like to click this drop-down menu and then click on Workers' Comp because it takes us right to the section that we need to be in. The section is the Q&A section where you see Beacon listed. You see the proposal here, the quote, and then you now have a green Request to Bind button. So now we're going to go ahead and click on Request to Bind, and it's going to give us additional steps. So we've answered the required questions, we've become appointed. All that's left to do is electronically sign the accord forms, and those need to be done by you and by your applicant or the insured, and you'll do that electronically by clicking Open Signing Tool. You do not have to have a separate program or license or setup for this electronic signature. It's all ready to go and built into the Appulate system for both you and your insured, so simply follow the prompts there. And once you and your insured have signed, these check marks will show up in green, and you'll then have a Proceed button in blue that you can click on. So you'll see I can't click on it until I fulfill those requirements. So once you do, you'll click on Proceed. The status will change to say Requested to Bind. It will trigger a notification to the Beacon team. They will work on binding that. Once it has been bound, you will receive email notification, and your status in Appulate will change to say Bound. So that's the process from start to finish when you're using the Accord form to bridge over information so you don't have to rekey it. To recap, you uplink the Accord form to the Appulate uplink printer option, answer any additional missing and required questions. You can upload any documents or put in any notes here to be included as a part of your submission. Once you've fulfilled the requirements, you will get a green Submit button here under Action that you will click on. Once you have submitted, the status will change to say Submitted. Once you get a quote back within 1 to 2 business days from Beacon, it will show up right here within Appulate as a PDF that you can click on Open Up to review. You will receive email notification on that. To move forward with requesting to bind, you'll answer any additional missing and required questions, and you will go ahead and become appointed with Beacon if you aren't yet. Then you could go ahead and click on Request to Bind to do electronic signatures on any required Accord forms. Then your status will be updated to Bound once that's completed. Now, before I go into setup, I do want to quickly show you how you can get started from within Appulate for those of you that don't have an Accord form to start from. So I'll go over that, then we'll go over setup. We have just 2 more slides for you, and then we'll take questions. So we're almost at the end here. All right, so to get started directly from within Appulate, you would go to our sign-in page, appulate.com/sign-in. And once you're signed in, the very first page that it takes you to is this insured, all insured page where you see a list of all of your current insured records. To add a new one, you'll click on Add New Customer or Prospect, and you'll choose whether this is business or personal. So this is business, it's workers' comp. And you'll plug in the name here. Okay, click Continue. On this next page here, you'll choose a line of business. Again, this is workers' compensation. We'll choose that from the drop-down menu. It automatically assigns an effective and expiration date, which you're welcome to edit. And then on this next page here, you'll go ahead and add Beacon as your market, and the process from here remains the same. So in this case, you didn't have Accord information to bridge over. So instead, you're choosing Beacon, and you're answering all of the required questions directly in Appulate. Once you fulfill the requirements, click the Submit button. Again, all of these steps remain the same. So let's go over setup to ensure that you can start using this today. And then, like I said, a couple more slides with some more helpful information from you. Then we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to take any of your questions. So where to sign in? Appulate.com/sign-in, enter your credentials, and click on Sign In. Everyone that was invited to this webinar today has Appulate credentials. If you don't recall getting Appulate credentials, or you simply just don't remember what they are, click on the Forgot Password link to reset them. If you have any issues with that, it could be that this email was forwarded to you. If you truly believe that you do not have an Appulate account, you can click on Sign Up Now. It'll just take a minute to create your free Appulate account to use for Beacon Aviation. Once you sign in, at the top under Markets and Selected, you want to be sure that Beacon is listed as one of your markets. So again, when I showed you how you bridged over the Accord form, or even how you started from Appulate, the very first action on that Q&A screen is to select the market that you want to work on for this particular submission. And in order for Beacon to be an option on that list, it needs to be here under Markets and Selected. Now, we took care of that for you. However, if you are missing it for whatever reason, you can go to Markets and Available, and you can search Beacon from that list and click on the plus sign under Select to add them. The other thing you'll want to do is make sure that you have the uplink installed on your desktop. That's under Tools, Appulate Uplink. Choose your management system. Again, part of what makes this unique is that we work with any agency management system. So select them from the list, and if you don't see it, you can choose Other. Click on the link to install, and it will install on your desktop in less than a minute as a print driver. So in other words, you'll see it listed as one of your printer options along with your home printer or your office printer, for example. We have installation instructions that you can download should you wish to have more information on this. You can also always email support@appulate.com if you have any questions or issues. If you're already using Appulate for another market and have Uplink installed, you do not need to reinstall this. All right, so now that we've gone over that, we're going to go ahead and go back to the slides here. John has a bit more information to share with you. Then again, we'd like to take any of your questions. John, over to you.
Thank you, Vanessa. In closing, we appreciate your time and participation. An Appulate training document handout will be available online and on our landing page. You'll also receive an email shortly after this webinar with a complete summary of Beacon's program, including our landing page link, as well as access to the full YouTube training video. Please reach out to Beacon with any questions or comments. Our underwriters await your call. We also encourage you to start submitting today. We are live, and extra incentives for our first webinar participants will be available. Call your underwriters for more information. Finally, on our last page, we have some of our contact information, our website, our phone number, and an info line. And we also have a landing page, which is at readymag.com/appulate/beacon, and that'll be in all of the emails that you receive. So that finishes us up, Vanessa.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. So at this time, if you have any questions, please type them in the GoToMeeting side panel under the questions section, and myself or someone from the Beacon team will be able to answer those for you before we jump off the call. Please start sending those in now. In the meanwhile, again, contact information is on your screen, so feel free to jot that down in case you have any questions or need any assistance post-webinar. Also, as John mentioned, the Appulate Agent Training Handbook is attached in the handout section. So in your GoToMeeting side panel, there's a tab or a section that says Handouts, 1 of 5. If you open that up, you can download the attachment there. That's a written training document for Beacon submissions through Appulate. First call for any questions here. Last call, any questions? All right, wonderful. It looks like we don't have any questions. I'd just like to say that on behalf of the entire Appulate team, we're very happy to see you on the call today, and we hope that this was helpful and informative. To the Beacon team, thanks so much for your participation in this webinar. We're very excited about this, and thank you all for joining.